Welcome to this Tutor to You Sociology topic video for culture and identity. In this video we're going to look at the work of Ulrich Beck on culture. Ulrich Beck was a German sociologist best known for his ideas about how modern society faces new kinds of risks and challenges. His most famous concept is the risk society, which describes how in our modern world we are increasingly focused on managing and avoiding various risks, many of which are the result of our own technological advancements. Beck's work on culture is closely tied to this idea of risk and how it changes the way we live, think and interact with each other. In this video, we're going to explore Beck's key ideas on culture, including risk society, individualization, globalization and reflexive modernization. Beck's concept of the risk society is central to understanding his ideas about culture. In traditional societies, most risks came from natural sources like floods, famines or diseases. People relied on cultural practices, their religious beliefs and social institutions to help them cope with these risks. However, in modern society, many of the risks we face are man-made, resulting from our own technological and industrial activities. For example, if we consider climate change, nuclear accidents or pollution, these are risks created by human actions, often tied to the pursuit of progress and economic growth. Beck argues that in a risk society, culture changes because people become more aware of these risks and start to question the very progress that created them. This leads to a shift in cultural values, where safety, sustainability and responsibility become more important. In a risk society, people are constantly trying to anticipate and manage risks, which affects everything from government policies to personal choice. This focus on risk also leads to a culture of uncertainty, where people are less sure about what the future holds and more anxious about the potential dangers. Another important concept in Beck's work is individualization. In traditional societies, people's identities and roles were largely determined by their family, community and social class. Cultural practices were passed down from generation to generation, and people were expected to follow established norms and traditions. However, in modern society, Beck argues that people are increasingly expected to create their own identities. This process of individualization means that people have more freedom to choose who they want to be, but it also comes with more responsibility. Instead of relying on tradition or social expectations, individuals must make their own decisions about their careers, relationships, beliefs and lifestyles. This shift has a big impact on culture. On one hand, it allows for greater diversity and creativity, as people can explore different ways of living and thinking. But on the other hand, it can lead to feelings of isolation and insecurity, as people might struggle to find their place in a rapidly changing world. In a risk society, individualization can also make people more vulnerable to the pressures of managing risks on their own, without the support of traditional social structures. Beck was also interested in globalization and how it affects culture. Globalization refers to the process by which the world is becoming more interconnected, with ideas, goods and people moving across borders more easily than ever before. Beck argued that globalization creates both opportunities and challenges for culture. On the positive side, globalization allows for the exchange of cultural ideas and practices across different societies. People can now access and experience a wider variety of cultures, from food and music to fashion and art. This can lead to a richer, more diverse cultural landscape, where people are exposed to new perspectives and ways of life. However, Beck also warned that globalization can lead to the spread of risks on a global scale. For example, environmental issues like climate change, economic crises or pandemics are not confined to one country. They affect people all over the world. This creates a global risk culture, where people in different parts of the world are connected by shared concerns and challenges. Globalization can also lead to cultural homogenization, where local cultures are overshadowed by dominant global trends. This can result in the loss of cultural diversity, as traditional practices and languages disappear in favour of more widespread globalised ones. Beck argued it's important to find a balance between embracing global connections and preserving local culture. Another key idea in Beck's work is reflexive modernization. This concept describes how modern societies are increasingly questioning and reflecting on the consequences of their own progress. In the past, modernization was seen as a positive force, bringing technological advancements, economic growth, and improved living standards. However, Beck argued that modern society has reached a point where it must confront the negative side effects of this progress, like environmental degradation, social inequality, and new forms of risk. Reflexive modernization means that people are becoming more aware of these risks and starting to demand changes. For example, there is growing cultural awareness around issues like climate change, human rights, and social justice. And this awareness leads to new cultural movements and practices as people seek to address the problems created by modernity. Beck believed that reflexive modernization could lead to a more democratic and responsible society, where people are actively involved in shaping their future. However, it also requires a cultural shift, where people move away from blind faith in progress and towards a more critical, reflective approach to development. Ulrich Beck's work on culture offers important insights into how modern society is changing in response to new risks and challenges. His concept of the risk society shows how culture is increasingly focused on managing and avoiding the dangers created by our own technological advancements. Individualization highlights the shift towards personal responsibility and the creation of individual identities, while globalization explores the impact of a more interconnected world on cultural practices. Finally, reflexive modernization emphasizes the need for a cultural shift towards greater awareness and responsibility in the face of modern risks. Understanding Beck's ideas helps us to see how culture is not just about traditions and customs, but also about how we adapt to new challenges and think critically about the consequences of our actions. In a world that's constantly changing, Beck's work reminds us of the importance of being aware of the risks that we face and taking responsibility for creating a more sustainable and just society. That concludes this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on culture and identity, looking at the work of Ulrich Beck on culture. Thanks for watching.